we have somebody in education who's a volunteer who's like a genius with the database. When we started talking, and that's how Bill got into the IT. He said, yeah, I can help you with it if you want me to help you. And he started helping us out. But in my journey of getting to know Bill, here's what I've learned about him, right? You hear everybody talking about his brilliance with computers and how he built out a wonderful database, and sort of his computer genius was like magic. You know what his real magic was? Was that when we had an issue with an education student, and who was deciding on whether or not to suspend or discharge that student, Bill would come up to me and say, let me give you the background story of this kid. This is what's happening with him. This is what's going on with his life. Bill knew what was happening with our young folks. When somebody was in trouble, Bill was the place that they would go to talk to. Bill cared about the people who walked through this door, particularly our young folks. He's seen the beauty in them, the way we see it, the way this organization sees it. And when you talk about why and how he came here because this was a place where regardless of what brought you to this place, regardless of what you did, when you walk through these doors, we see the humanity in people. We see the best in people. And that's what Bill was about. He was about caring for people. When everybody else gave up on them, he would not give up. And so here's the lesson for me, here's a lesson for all of us, and here's Bill's memory. When you look at somebody and you see them hurting, help them recover. When you're deciding whether or not you want to support somebody or whether they deserve your support, look for the best in them. When you're thinking about giving up or giving up on somebody or defining a family situation being too tough, remember Bill. Remember that giving up is not an option. Letting go is not an option. What is an option is going still full steam ahead. And that's what Bill was about. So he left us something really precious, a lesson about life, a lesson about our humanity, a lesson about connections.
Now or later?
Up to you guys. Whatever you want to do, John.
So sometime this summer I was talking to Bill, and I think really at Alex's suggestion, I asked him, like, are there other people that we should be getting in touch with? And he told me about somebody who he had never told me about at all, which is his old, incredibly close friend, Mary Hunter, who's here today. And she, Chaz contacted her. I just have been out of touch for many years, and she just came right back into his life in sort of an amazing way. I was just kind of knocked out. And so she came to kind of share some thoughts with us.
Yes. I might have an issue here, man.
Thank you, John. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here, and I also want to say that the workplace is a wonderful place to meet somebody, and that's where I met Bill, way back when, in the 1970s. So my relationship goes back to the 1970s when we both worked for a supermarket chain. I worked in Manhattan, and Bill worked in the other boroughs and Long Island. But once in a while, he worked at my store, and that's how we became friends. Looking back, it's kind of surprising that we became friends because we really didn't work together for very long. Only a few months and intermittently, and only when our schedules coincide. We really didn't see each other that often, but I think that planets must have been aligned. Something was happening in the skies. Fate might have intervened, whatever, when we were together at the same place at the same time. We got along so beautifully, and our relationship just took off from there. Bill's brother called us the original Will and Grace. The characters of the TV series, it sounds like you're all familiar with that. And that pretty much summed up our relationship accurately, perfectly. Like Will was gay. Together, Bill and I were best friends. We lived together, we shared our lives, just as Will and Grace did. We lived in Soho and experienced life in the big city together, and we developed relationships with each other's friends and family. One year, we even traveled to the other side of the world, where we took a memorable trip to Thailand to visit Chaz, who was in the Peace Corps. It was the first trip outside of the U.S. that either one of us made, and I'm so glad that we experienced that together. I really enjoyed going places with Bill and doing fun things, but most of all, I love those quieter moments when we just listened to music, read the newspapers, or simply talked. And it really didn't matter what we talked about, because we could tell each other anything. And we talked about everything. Nothing was off limits or considered embarrassing or too personal. In fact, I was the first person that Bill ever told that he was gay. And I know that this was not easy for him to do, especially not 40 years ago. But I was really happy that he felt comfortable enough with me to talk to me about it. One of the qualities I most admired about Bill was his compassion for others. He always wanted to make a difference. And I remember, even way back when, he sent checks to the Save the Children Foundation, an international relief organization that provided basic necessities for children. And I know for sure that most of us who were also in our 20s at that time were much more selfish with how we were going to spend our paychecks, and certainly weren't making donations to charities. I know I wasn't. Bill was kind, and he was also generous. Those were not the qualities that endeared him to me, not initially. Instead, it was his wit, his very wicked sense of humor, that reeled me in, hook, line, and sinker. He was funny and entertaining, especially when explaining his views or his view of the world, or when poking fun at himself. But he reserved his best witticisms for politics and politicians. And he would have had a ball with this presidential election, the candidates and their solutions for the problems we have. Of course, there were tough times and sad times too. And the last few months were especially tough for Bill and for those of us who loved him. And today, my heart is broken. Sorry. And I'm saddened by our loss. But at the same time, I feel enriched and very blessed because of Bill. He was a friend like no other. I feel so fortunate that he was in my life, and he was a big part of it. I will always cherish the time together, the bond we shared, and the memories we made. I will always love and miss Bill. I'll keep him in my thoughts and forever in my heart. Thank you.
So this is one I'd like a little help with. I talked to Chaz a couple days ago, and I said, what kind of music did he like? He said he loved Bette Midler, and she recorded some great songs, and this is one of them. And boy, just from everything I'm hearing, it seems so appropriate. It's called The Rose. Remember that song? So sing along, fake it, do what you can. That's kind of what I'm doing. So here it is. Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leaves your soul to bleed. Some say love, a hunger and endless aching. I say love, it is a flower, and you, it's only seed. It's the heart afraid of breaking that never learns to